their performance at times, as Coventry clawed themselves back into that game, was not befitting of Manchester United and their players. You've got to give a lot of credit to Coventry.
I think you have to say befitting of Man United.
That's what I said.
That's not the first time those players have played like that.
No, fair enough, but notwithstanding, not befitting of Manchester United. They represent Man United.
In the eyes of who? Not befitting to Manchester United?
In the eyes of the standards that you would expect Man United to want to set. You know, you're 3-0 up in a cup semi-final against Championship opposition that deserve to be there, that are ultimately getting blown away for a period of time, that have clawed themselves back in. But the manner in which United were so susceptible to an outcome which was about mental strength, about the resilience and adversity and all the characteristics that you'd like to expect from a Manchester United represented scenario were not evidence, even to the point where they've stayed in the FA Cup by the width of a toenail. That's what's kept them in the FA Cup. I knew as soon as Coventry's goal was disallowed that United would get through just simply because of the law of averages, and it's a tragedy that certain players
you knew before the penalty shootout
began. Because you could just see the way it was going.
Meg.
No, because you could just see that. You think to yourself, the biggest headline that you're going to get written, and we'd have dined out on it this morning. Can you imagine if Coventry's goal had stood? What would be said this morning?
Yeah.
So I'm of course looking at it from that point of view, thinking this is fun and games.
Victor's the victor.
And then you think this narrative is going to be rewritten because they'll beat them on penalties, which they duly did. But there's nothing about that performance besides a period of time in the first half where United can take much from it and say, wonderful. Yes, they've gone on a cup run. They've beaten Wigan, they've beaten Newport, they've beaten Nottingham Forest, and the result that stands out.
3 cup finals in 2 years.
Fine, absolutely. And they've won the League Cup, right? And if they play anything vaguely resembling like that against Manchester City, they're going to get smashed into the next life. I suspect they'll be better because the outcome, the event itself will take hold of itself. But there's nothing about Man United and Ten Hag that lends me to the conclusion that they're going to be sitting with the same manager after the season's finished.
I tell you what's scary. I mean, it goes to extra time, 90 minutes extra time. If that is, they're at the bare bones. When you look at, if that is their squad of first team players, as I'm talking, I'm trying to think of who's missing through injury. But you know, the kids coming, the kids that they think are going to be players one day. I mean, the pretty bare bones. When you're talking about Man United, who spent over £1 billion in the last decade, they don't look. It's a big job. Whoever gets that job, if they are going to change, and an enormous job for the recruitment team, an enormous job for the new owner. He must now know he's got an enormous job in his hands.
Yeah, I mean,
to get Man United back to be in one of the eminent teams in our league, in Europe, not just our league.
I just think the word embarrass, it drives me nuts in football. Do you feel embarrassed? They're in a cup final. Do you think any Manchester United fan travelling down to London for cup final day shouldn't really be here? I'm still embarrassed by what happened against Coventry. Do me a favour.
Jim, you're in the media, you know how it works. It's a word that was mentioned and then people pick up on it and it's a tag there, it's going to stay. There's no embarrassment in getting to a cup final.
Exactly, you just said it.
You can play fabulously well in all the rounds and get to a cup final and play miserable on a day and lose it. There's no embarrassment in being there. What they've got to do now is win it. They've got to win it, and
I think there was
a monster job on their hands.
What would that do for him, Simon? If Ten Hag
doesn't keep his job, doesn't keep his job.
He doesn't keep his job if they win the FA Cup. What is it?
I think
it's a Louis van Gaal moment.
I think their mind was made up very quickly after Jim Radcliffe got the club. Yeah, I don't think it's about this season. I think it's the season and beyond, and just the overall quality of player they have there. And he has spent some money, the manager. Overall quality of the player, the noises coming out from there. I mean, you're looking at Rashford. You know, Rashford looks a shadow of the boy he was last year. That comes down to the manager. The manager's job is to get the best of the group of players he's working with. And right now, you would say that's not the case at Man United. And that's the day after they qualify for a cup final.
So you're in the camp of even if they win the FA Cup,
I think it's going to be very. I'm not calling for him to be sacked, but I think they made their mind up a month ago.
What have we seen? What are we really seeing? Besides, he's been there 2 years, and I went very early on my opinion of him in terms of my belief that he had the character and the strength of character to be able to change the direction of travel in the culture of Manchester United, because too many of these players playing for Man United don't realise the responsibility of playing for Man United, and they've got it far too easy, and Rashford's one of them, and I've maintained for some time that he needs to be moved on because I think he's run his race. and people can have their differing views on that. But 2 years after the event, what do you tell me that you see from Manchester United when you saw them get smashed to pieces against Brentford at the beginning of the season when he was putting a 2-foot tall centre-half against Ivan Toney, and they got beaten to pieces against what you saw yesterday against Coventry, where they got lucky to get into an FA Cup final? What do you tell me over 2 years that has really told us that Man United are on the direction that's going to give you confidence for the next 2 years?
Can I throw one at you? You know, I like to think I'm a football person.
Yes.
Wakehurst. Wakehurst, is that how you say his name?
The centre forward, the one was at Burnley.
He was using him as a number 10. Describe a number 10 to me.
Well, you know what it is. I don't need you to describe it.
I'll describe what I think the number 10
is.
is.
We need you to tell us.
Someone who can get on half turn, someone who takes the ball, surrounded by, Silva or the
Manson.
Yeah, that type of player. Someone who's cute and clever with their passing and chips in with a goal.
Yeah. Some of what Harry Kane.
So he's got it all wrong, Ten Hag.
Well, I just don't. I thought that at the time. I don't know why I've mentioned that today. When I looked at him playing as a number 10, I'm thinking,
he's a
at best, he's a big lump of a centre forward to be a nuisance to centre half who doesn't score goals. I just couldn't see him playing off the front, being clever with the ball.
There's a message coming in. Yeah, Jim, you've got to admit it. That Manchester United performance was embarrassing. You can't be 3-0 up with 20 minutes to go, extra time, you get there in the end. This is Manchester United. Yes, I get that. So are some Manchester United fans too embarrassed to come to Wembley when it gets to cup final day? Give us a call on that. And after the cup final is over, win it or lose it, is Ten Hag gone? Do you want him gone? Manchester United fans in numbers correcting me, saying, no, forget it. It was an embarrassment at Wembley. No name in this one. I was at Wembley yesterday. The team are an embarrassment, Jim. Took my 8-year-old to the game. I've got to tell you, some of the behaviour of our own fans was disgusting. I don't know what behaviour he's talking about there. But anyway, we shall take some calls on this. Because whichever way you look at it, Erik Ten Hag is in another cup final with Manchester United. It's as simple as. The thing is, it's against Manchester City, and that's one United fans would dearly love to win, but so would City fans. Abs is a big United fan. Graham Souness is alongside Simon and myself. Abs, what do you want to say?
Where do I start, guys? I mean, I was at the game yesterday myself, and I mean, everyone's quick to blame the manager, which obviously are fair enough, but I mean, some of these players, I'm going to start off with Rashford. Like, I mean, I had a great view on Rashford, and he's just running back. Like, he's not even running back; he's just jogging back. Like, you play for Man United, the biggest club in the world. Like, you're earning a ridiculous amount of money, but and these players are just criminals. And I'm sick to death of going in, week out, seeing the same performances, and nobody calls them out. Everyone's quick to blame the manager, which is fair enough. But I mean, some of these players is ridiculous. Like, everyone's in a profession. Like, you guys have a job to do. I have a job to do, and you're getting paid to do a job. And when you're not doing your job properly, you have to get called out for it. These players, no one says nothing about them. How many managers are they going to throw under the bus? Like, it's good to change a manager, but you can get rid of Ten Hag like today. And then what about these players? The players are still going to be here. It's going to be rinse, recycle, repeat. And they're all criminals. I'm sick to death of it as well.
They're all criminals. Abs, this is strong. I mean, Graham, you were a manager. Do you identify with what Abs is saying about the players?
I can understand his frustration because it's Man United he's talking about. You know, the standards at Man United prior to, well, since Fergie left, have gone downhill alarmingly. And it must, I don't know what age you are, Abs, but you've obviously seen your team win all the big trophies, I would imagine, listening to you. And it'll be a hard watch. And he touches on Rashford. You know, when Abs mentioned Rashford, you know what I thought of? Do you remember that incident at Luton with Barkley?
Yes.
Was on the ball.
Yeah.
Barkley, he went past him. He went past him at 3/4 pace, and he just gave up. You know, and we mentioned with Joe Cole earlier, senior players call out these things on the pitch at that time. But it shouldn't happen on a match day, because every day in training, if that was to happen, senior players will be pointing that out. A manager will be pointing that out. So I don't think players dig each other out, and I don't think this manager you've got now has not dug him out about that, because that wouldn't have been the first time he's done it. And that game against Luton, and that will influence all of his game. He's going through the motions at times.
Other United fans around you, do they feel the same about a perceived lack of commitment on Rashford's part?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, it's not just Rashford. I'm not just going to single out Rashford. There's a lot of the players, to be fair. Like, they don't. You know what I mean? They're earning such a ridiculous amount of money a week, and all we ask for every week is just 90 minutes, 100 minutes of hard work, dedication, commitment. Football, sometimes you can lose a game of football, like it happens to every team. But when you go out on that pitch, all we ask for is, you know, you're playing for the biggest club in the world, just give it all you've got. And when you see players not running back, not even giving 5-10% effort, you know what I mean? And they're getting paid a ridiculous amount of money. We're paying an extortionate amount of money to go watch you play week in, week out. And all we ask for is 90 minutes, 100 minutes of dedication. You can't even give us that. And it's not like it's a one-off thing. It's been happening time after time. This season, Man United players, they don't know how to manage leaves. They're very incapable of doing anything, I'll be honest with you. And talking the final, we got no chance against City, I'll be honest with you. I'll go to the game. I'll obviously always support the team, no matter what. But
Abs. I don't think anyone's pointed this out to Man United players. When you play for Man United, every single game you play is a cup final. The team you're playing against, when the fixtures come out in June or whenever, May, players, all the other clubs, when we at Old Trafford, when do they come to us? It's one of the games as a player. It's imprinted in your head before the season starts. So Man United, like Liverpool, like Arsenal this year, like Man City, they never play an easy game. Every game is a cup final. You're playing the best version of the team you're in against. That's what you have to expect. Yeah. And these Man United players don't seem to grasp that.
Abs, let's finish on this. Say Ten Hag and United find a way to beat City at Wembley. Should Ten Hag, in your view, go into next season?
You know, I was always defending Ten Hag, even at the start of the season. Obviously, injuries and whatnot. These things, it happens to every single team. But I'll be honest with you, he has no style of play. Like, I can't really see where we're going to go with him. And obviously, the ownership has changed now as well, 25% of it. And they're getting rid of a lot of people as well. I'll be honest, even if he wins the FA Cup, he should still go, to be fair. Not just him. I don't want to just point the finger at him. A lot of these players are not good enough. They've been there since, Ten Hag, Van Gaal, Mourinho.
Right.
They've got a lot of these managers are sacked. But I personally, he has to go, to be fair.
That was quite a call. Thank you for that.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.